Hi guys, this is Lalana. Thanks for tuning into the Sovereign Path. So today we're going to talk about the differences between a karmic and a twin flame. So I know that this is a topic that's been around for quite a while now. I did videos on this on my other channel, One Eternal Flame. So let's hit on this topic again on this channel for anyone who still is looking for clarification, or potentially anyone who is just stepping on to the twin flame path and needs a little bit more clarity, okay? So karmic relationships, as I've said in the past in some of my other videos, it's actually one of my favorite topics to talk about because I feel that karmic relationships hold so many keys to us unlocking a lot of the barriers that a lot of us are walking around with in this incarnation. So your karmic partner is a part of your soul family. They are going to come into your world when a lesson needs to be learned. So there's something that you have potentially been carrying around from a past lifetime, certainly through this lifetime. It could be one of the ways that you can sort of tell that, you know, I'm pulling this in from a past lifetime or another timeline, is if your initial romantic relationships, romantic partnerships are karmic, right? So the relationships that you are initially in as an adolescent, as a young adult, feel karmic in nature, or you look back and you realize that these partnerships were karmic in nature. That generally means that you're bringing in some sort of a karmic contract, karmic pattern, karmic lesson that wasn't learned or that wasn't eradicated in a past timeline into this incarnation with you. Again, for you to actually clear these, right? And heal from these and release them and let them go. So this is the purpose of having a karmic come into your world, is to assist you to finally break free from these lessons that you continue to run. So a better way of saying that is if you find yourself going in loops over and over and over again in a romantic partnership, right? This keeps coming up for me, this keeps coming up for us, we keep hitting the same wall, we keep talking about the same thing, it's never resolved. I feel like I'm just keep hitting a dead end, we keep getting back together and then we hit the same problem over again. Or you get out of that relationship because it's just not working due to that thing, and then you get into another relationship and a similar issue shows up and you keep running that program with that person, and finally you're in that place of you're like, hold on, I keep having this similar kind of romantic partnership no matter which person it's with, right? I keep hitting this situation, whether it's abandonment, whether it's feelings of self-worth, whether it's, you know, some sort of self-love situation, whether it's feeling like you're, you know, victimized, whether it feels like you're the giver and you never receive, you know, however that's playing out, it's going to be different in everybody's life. But if these things continually, you notice, are coming up for you in a relationship over and over and over again, this is a very good sign that this is karmic. In addition to any sort of toxic behavior is karmic. Obviously, any sort of abusive behavior is going to be karmic. These sort of things, those are very obvious. This is a karmic situation if you're running into toxicity of any of that nature. But for the bulk of this video, it's basically saying if you continue to run into the same pattern and the same lesson, and you continue to see that every time I'm in a romantic partnership, no matter who it is, this same theme comes up for me. And I don't understand why this theme continues to come up for me. That's a karmic pattern, right? And you have the karmic partner come into your world to continue to show you that pattern over and over and over again. That's why it stays on repeat. That's why if you don't heal it and look at it and clear it after leaving the current relationship and you go into another relationship, the pattern will just pick up on itself and keep going. So it doesn't really matter which relationship you're in if you are stuck in a karmic pattern, right? Because regardless of who you're with, that pattern will continue to show up. These patterns can also show up in family relationships and dynamics. It doesn't have to be romantic. We're talking about romantic here because we're talking about twin flames. And they can also show up in any sort of situation that makes you feel like I can't get ahead in life, right? So feeling like, you know, a lack frequency around abundance, around not like getting the job that you always want, feeling like you're always sort of stuck in those dead end patterns that go round and round. Those are karmic cycles, right? And so when we have those, as I said, these are specifically here for us to break free from. They are specifically here to drive you crazy. They are specifically in your face over and over and over again with that pattern, with that lesson, to show you that lesson, right? To show you, like, do you want to keep doing this? Is this fun? Do you want to keep having this kind of relationship? Don't you want to have something healthier? And although when we're in the throes of that, we're moving from our wounds, and so we're moving from our egoic patterns, we don't understand in those moments, however long those moments last, that these are actually directed by the higher self. This is actually your higher self coming in and being like, let's do this, let's keep going, let's keep evolving, let's shift out of this so we can continue to have, you know, our soul expansion, so we can continue to have other sort of experience and other soul growth besides this. You know, we're just kind of going rinse and repeat over and over again, and we can stay here and do this for as long as you need to, right? This is what the higher self is conveying. If you need to run this pattern for lifetimes, you can. But we're showing you this pattern over and over again, potentially for lifetimes or potentially for several relationships in the current lifetime, because you need to break it. You need to learn that lesson. You need to shift out of it. So this is the biggest header for karmic relationship, right? It's one lesson that you need to learn, that you continue repeating no matter what relationship you're in, and it also can pick up in other areas and aspects of your life. Because generally you're holding some sort of a wound that's saying, I'm not worth this, or I'm going to get abandoned if I do this, or, you know, my self-love is really low, or I'm just running some sort of lack frequency, or I'm in a victim mindset. Whatever those sort of things, whatever that inner child wounding is going to show up in karmic relationships. That wounding is still going to show up in other relationships as well, but in a karmic relationship, it's going to show up in a very sort of consistent, patterning, unhealthy, on and off, back and forth. This is good, this is not good, love, hate, what am I doing? This doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel healthy, why am I still in it? That's karmic. That's a karmic relationship. So as opposed to the twin flame dynamic, when a lot of people find that the twin flame can feel karmic in nature in a lot of ways, because you're feeling very triggered when the twin shows up. There's a lot of wounds coming up similar to that of a karmic. There are a lot of things sort of pushing up to the surface. The twin is pushing your buttons and is triggering you similar to a karmic. The difference is that, first of all, twin flame dynamic is never toxic. It's never abusive. Not ever. That's the first thing. The second thing is that unlike with a karmic situation where it's going to be one lesson, maybe two lessons that repeat over and over and over again. You know, it's like walking into the same dead end road over and over again and wondering why you can't keep driving, right? It's like there's a huge sign there that's saying that road is closed, and you just keep going down that road anyway, and you keep going down it anyways, and you can't get through because the road is closed, right? That's what a karmic is like. Why can I not break through this? Because you're not paying attention to the fact that there's a giant sign there that is telling you to heal, heal, heal. Let go of this pattern. So the twin flame dynamic is going to be like, there's this pattern, and this pattern, and this pattern, and that wound, and that wound, and that wound, and that wound, and all of these other wounds that I'm reflecting back to you, right? This is what the twin does, because the twin is you. So the twin is not in a situation where you are going to be able to dip out from under it, hide away from it. This is a mirror. This is your same soul self reflecting back to you everything that is you. So that's a massive difference. The karmic partner is going to be showing you that lesson, that pattern that you keep running, that you've continued to run. And it's just going to be that one thing, right? Maybe two things with the karmic, and that's it. The twin is going to show you everything, all of it, all the time, right? The twin is showing you every single aspect of you, including every aspect of you that you may not even have been aware of until you met them, right? They're you. They are your exact mirror. This is your exact energetic blueprint. This is your exact same soul. This isn't a situation where, in a karmic dynamic, where you're just like, okay, I'm just getting out of this, I'm out, I'm gone, you know, whatever, and I'm gonna run from it. And so then you run from that karmic partner, and then immediately you run into another karmic partner that shows you the same situation, right? With a twin flame dynamic, it's not a situation that you can outrun, number one. You cannot outrun yourself. So if you've actually stepped onto a twin flame journey, then you are actually going through an ascension process, which I've said in my other videos. If you're in a karmic dynamic, you are not going to be going through an awakening process. You're not going to be going through a deep self-healing. You're not going to be going through this deep self-reflection that you are if you are in a twin flame dynamic. The reflection of yourself in another pushes you into the ascension path. It pushes you into a deep, deep self-healing and self-reflective place in your world that you will not have experienced before in any other partnership, including a soulmate partnership. So I'll do one on soulmates and twin flames as well, another video on that. So although the twin flame can show up in ways that are similar to karmic relationships, in that it's going to be very triggering in a lot of ways, and tons and tons of ways the twin flame is going to be very triggering for you, but it's going to elicit a deep sense of self-love and self-worth and unconditional love for yourself that you will not have experienced before. And this is a marked difference on this path. And it's one of the ways that you can tell if you're on a twin flame path or if you're not, regardless if we're talking about soulmates and karmics and whatever else, is the fact that when you start out on a twin flame journey and your ascension process begins, your whole life, if you're the divine feminine, your whole life turns into a self-loving, self-questioning, self-analyzing world. It's like everything in your world becomes like, I'm not going to run those patterns that I used to run anymore. I need to look at what's coming up. I need to see what's going on within my inner world. I need to see what's going on with my inner child. So the divine feminine goes into a deep, deep place of self-reflection where she is no longer running from the relationships anymore. She's no longer looking outside of her for another relationship to fall into, right? She's no, and I say she, it can be he as well. They are no longer looking outside of them to escape this karmic connection that they have been in their past. When you're in a karmic relationship, a lot of times you'll be in a situation where you'll feel like, I've had enough, I can't do this anymore, I'm out, right? The problem with that is that if you haven't dealt with what's going on and what's coming up for you in that connection, most people just want to get in a different connection because they just want the shit to stop, basically. Whether it's the pain to stop, whether it's the constant cycling to stop, whether it's the triggering to stop, whatever it is, you know, you just want it to stop. And so until you look within to see what's actually going on and why the karmic partner keeps showing you these things, a lot of people just go into the next relationship, right? It's an easy way to forget about this, and it's got to be that person because they're bringing up all the stuff and they're the one to blame. So if I get into another relationship, then it's going to be better. That's what a lot of people feel like when they're getting out of karmic relationships. And then they get into the other relationship and the same thing starts repeating again and showing up again. So that sense of self-reflection and going deep within through karmic patterning, it doesn't happen. The ascension process doesn't happen in karmic relationships. You have to get to a point in your world where you finally go through a spiritual awakening and spiritual ascension before these things start to break down and you become aware of what's actually going on in your world, and then you focus on your self-love, right? This is what the twin flame path activates. This is what the twin flame elicits within you. is actually being in a place where you're like, I don't want to look away anymore. I don't want to look away from my wounds anymore. I don't want to distract myself in another relationship anymore. I don't want to run to another escape hatch, right? I don't want to look at all the externalities and try to figure out what other relationship is going to work for me now, or why this one wasn't working but that one will work. And so all of those sort of distractions. The twin flame dynamic is going to shift you out of all of that, all of it. In a karmic relationship, you're just going to keep running that pattern. You're just going to keep going to the next and the next and this distraction and this thing and whatever else, wondering why your life keeps basically manifesting in the same exact way, right? So until you come face to face with self, and this can absolutely happen for a lot of people in karmic relationships, where you've been through enough of them and you're just like, this is it, I'm done. And you start doing the self-reflection work, right? But until you come into that ascension process, which the twin flame activates, it's just going to be that one lesson or that one program, right? Which is a really great thing in itself, not like downing that in any way. But the twin flame is going to bring up every lesson, every program, every belief system, every indoctrination, every single thing that has ever come up in your world that has made you feel small, that has made you feel shitty, that has made you feel like you weren't loved, that has made you feel like you weren't good enough, that has made you feel like you were running a lack frequency, that has made you notice why this thing was always going on with my life and that thing was going on with my life and whatever else. The twin flame dynamic is going to eradicate these things, because the twin flame dynamic is going to activate you to be in a spiritual awakening and a Kundalini awakening process. And when those things begin to happen, the false sense of self, the ego self, begins to crumble. The beliefs, the programs, the karmic patterns, the traumas, they come up for clearing, right? All of them come up for clearing. It's one of the reasons that the twin flame dynamic can feel so overwhelming, because so many things are rushing up to the surface for the divine feminine, that it's in this process of being like, I don't even know where to look and what to do. And I have this other person that's apparently activated these things, and I'm not really sure what's going on and what you really mean to me, because I'm still asleep at this point, right? But I know, deep down, I know that I have to look at this stuff now, right? I have to go within now. I have to really focus on me. Have to really focus on my self-love now. It's like this push from the higher self in your back that is making you face all of these things, right? The karmic relationship is not going to do that. So these are the big differences between the two. Karmic relationship is just going to keep on patterning and patterning and patterning. The faces can change, the themes don't. So until you're ready to face that and break free from that lesson, whatever that might be, the karmic programming is still going to be running within you, regardless of where you're at or who you're with and whatever else. The twin flame dynamic is going to be like, okay, I see this program and that program and that program and oh shit, and all the programs, and I'm not gonna run them anymore, right? I'm gonna go within now and I'm gonna do the inner work, and that's gonna create all of this shit to crumble, right? This starts the whole process. The ascension process is ego death, right? Once you are eradicating ego, all of those beliefs and programs and everything that you used to run, they stop running. You stop believing in that shit. It just starts going away. This is a long process. I'm like condensing it down to a very small amount of time. This takes years for most people to get through this. But these are the marketed differences. The growth, the expansion, the self-love, the coming back into union with the higher self, the coming back out of the third dimensional vibration and coming into the higher frequencies and vibration of who you are as a soul. These are the things that are marketed and going to happen on a twin flame path, always, always, always. And if they're not happening, then you're probably not on a twin flame path. If you feel like you're in a toxic situation that just keeps going round and round and round, and you notice that pattern in other relationships as well in your past, whatever else, that is likely a karmic situation. If you feel like there's just not like really much growth, or you feel like it was just this one lesson, but I don't really know if I'm an awakening, I don't really know if I'm ascending, I'm not really sure what's going on, all of that sort of thing, that's likely a karmic situation. And so the other thing I want to say is that, and I'm going to do a video on this at some point, but the whole twin flame movement, the self-love movement, the awakening movement, it's gotten super trendy over the last few years. And so everybody's talking about self-love, and everybody's talking about self-worth and all of these sort of things. And that's all fine and good, and I'm not here to dispute that. But what I am here to say is that there is a difference in having a conscious decision of saying, okay, I'm gonna do this work, and I'm gonna go to therapy, and I'm gonna clear this program, and I'm gonna see what's coming up for me, which is a very, very admirable thing to do, right? This is a very admirable thing to do. And if you feel that you are in a situation that you need to seek therapy, 100% yes, right? Yes, it takes a lot of courage, and it's actually noticing there's something out of alignment, and this I need to deal with, right? The difference is between that and between going through an actual ascension process is that the ascension and the awakening process is triggered by your higher self. So this is an actual energetic shift within your entire makeup, right? The awakening process is a literal ego death. It is a literal eradication of everything that you had ever believed to be true. It is a very intense and undeniable and unquestionable shift in your reality, which does push you into the absolute depths of self-love, of self-acceptance, of unconditionality, brings you back into a place of oneness. Again, this happens over time. This isn't this happens in a couple weeks or even a few months. It's usually years for happening. But so this is the difference between going out and looking to having some sort of self-loving therapy situation to work on a few specific things that are coming up in your world, which again is a very admirable thing, and I think it's a wonderful thing for anyone to do who is finding themselves hitting those walls, especially if you're realizing, yeah, I'm in a karmic relationship and I need to figure out what's going on within me so that I can break this pattern, right, and so that I can heal from it. The difference with that, as I said, and being on a twin flame path is that situation of feeling okay, I'm noticing that I'm hitting this pattern, and so I need to seek help for that, is that the twin flame dynamic is going to, as I said, trigger every single solitary pattern or program that you have ever run in your entire life, including ones that you've run in other timelines and other past lives that you don't even remember. And so everything is going to come up to the surface. And unlike a therapist in the 3D who will be guiding you through that, if you're moving through a karmic situation and hitting karmic patterns, in an awakening situation, it's your higher self that's going to be guiding you through it, right? It's your higher self that's going to be assisting you, holding your hand, giving you the guidance that you need, all of these sort of things. Awakening is it's a complete shift in your reality. It's a complete change in your reality. So it isn't a matter of necessarily having that conscious decision of feeling yeah, I need to go to therapy. A twin flame awakening is saying it's basically having no choice. It's not a conscious decision anymore, because it is not a decision that's actually made with your thought or with your mind or with your ego. It's a place of a literal universal push in the back of your higher self, forcing you into this completely different reality where your whole world just becomes that. It just becomes self-love. It just becomes a place of coming back into oneness with God, universe, source, creation, higher self. And so these are two of the marketed differences between the karmic relationship and between a twin flame dynamic. I don't refer to twin flames as relationships because this is your same soul. This is you incarnate in another body. So you're not in a relationship with self. You are self. It is you, which is why a lot of times the twin flame relationship when we try to put it into a relationship, you know, sort of box or bubble like we would with the karmic, the twin flame doesn't really fit, because you're dealing with yourself. And if you're trying to have the twin flame dynamic act and breathe and work as a normal third dimensional relationship like the ones that you have experienced in your past, it's not going to work, because this is an energetic connection of yourself with yourself that is assisting the self to ascend and to come back into the self in order to eradicate all the karmic programming and all the traumas and all the beliefs and all the programs, in order for you to shift into a higher vibration and out of the third dimensional vibration. So these are the marketed differences between the karmic and the twin flame. So I hope that that helps you guys. Have an awesome day.